we saw what is blood glucose, what happens if you have very low glucose levels or if you have very high glucose levels. But of course, when we speak of blood glucose, there's always a concern, that of pre-diabetes, insulin resistance and diabetes. I'm sure you want to know what are the different tests which you can use to check your blood glucose levels, as well as to see whether you have insulin resistance or you don't, whether you are at risk or not. The most common and basic is fasting blood sugar. Now, FBS or fasting blood sugar is your blood glucose levels checked after 8 to 12 hours of fasting. Usually this fast is done overnight, and then that is when first thing in the morning you go and get your blood glucose levels checked, and the level that you see out there is your fasting blood sugar levels. The normal range is less than 100 mg per deciliter. Anything more than that is considered a flag. Now, while if you have insulin resistance, then a level of 100 to 125, 130 mg per deciliter could be considered pre-diabetic, but just checking FBS or fasting blood glucose is not an accurate indicator of whether you have pre-diabetes or not, simply because fasting blood sugar is going to tell you only your blood glucose levels in that particular point of time. To give you a simple example, people with diabetes, people like my uncle, they had a very good idea that if you were to manage your diet a day before, which is not eat anything which is very high in calories or in carbs, and ensure that you are not eating too many simple carbs or sweet things a day before you had to get your blood sugar tested, then the fasting blood glucose level would come well within a range. Did this mean that my uncle's fasting blood glucose or his diabetes was under control? Of course not. But because FBS or fasting blood sugar is checking the the blood glucose levels only in that one particular point of time, which is why it is also easy to manipulate it. Which then brings us to our next test. If fasting blood glucose is not the most reliable test that we have, or if it's a test that is telling us sugars only at one point of time, what is the other thing that can be tested? Which brings us to postprandial blood glucose levels. Postprandial, which is after eating a meal. PP2 is what is most commonly checked, which is checking your blood glucose levels after 2 hours of having eaten a meal. So which is why you will find that labs would tell you to check your fasting blood glucose levels first thing in the morning, and then tell you to come back to give a blood sample after you had your lunch, 2 hours after your lunch. What are they checking in this? They are checking whether your blood glucose is coming back well within the normal ranges, which is less than 135 to 140 mg per dl or not. If when they are checking your blood glucose levels 2 hours after your meal, they find that it is above 140, then it's going to be flagged as, hello, something is wrong, something is abnormal here. Maybe your insulin is not working good enough, or your meal was too heavy, or today there was something wrong with your hormonal management. Just like fasting blood glucose, the PP2 is also telling you what are your sugar levels on that one particular day or in that one particular point of time, which then again becomes a limitation for the same, because if I know I'm going to be tested, and like my uncle, I don't want anyone to come back to me saying, hey, you've been eating too many jalebis, I am going to have a meal which was just a salad and maybe one egg or something, and then go get my PP2 tested, and it will turn out to be normal. Now, if you checked your postprandial sugars and you found that the levels are above 160 or 180 sometimes, then two things are possible, that either you could have pre-diabetes or that one meal just simply was too much for your body to cope with. What should you be checking in that scenario? You need to check your glycated hemoglobin levels. What are glycated hemoglobin levels? Now, imagine your blood to be like a syrup. If you've seen any syrup, whenever syrup becomes super concentrated, you find that the sugar in that recrystallizes and thickens, and now you can see the sugar crystals. Similarly, when your blood glucose levels increase significantly, that's when your blood actually becomes thicker, or you have a lot of crystallization of sugar happening even within your blood glucose levels. Now, This then leads to there being glycation of your hemoglobin molecules. What is hemoglobin? Hemoglobin is the red molecule or the red protein found in your blood, which essentially makes your blood red. When you have very high hemoglobin levels, what happens is the blood glucose which is in the bloodstream and the hemoglobin which is also in the bloodstream are together, increase in the number of blood glucose molecules, then may leads to glycation of the hemoglobin. Now, is all glycation bad? No, glycation is a normal occurrence in your body when you have, say, X amount of blood glucose in your bloodstream and you also have hemoglobin happening. They are going around together and there's bound to be some joining or attachment which is happening between the hemoglobin molecule and the blood glucose molecule, leading to glycation of the hemoglobin or glycosylation of the hemoglobin, which is what the HbA1c test is checking, which is glycosylated hemoglobin. Now, problem occurs when this level of glycation increases beyond 5.7. 5.7 is nothing but a percentage. So we are checking what percentage of your hemoglobin is glycated. If it is around 4, 4.5, nothing to worry about. That's normal, happens pretty often. But if that starts increasing around, going up to around 5, then you have to be a little careful. Maybe my meals are too heavy and I need to make them smaller. If the glycation is increasing, if it crosses 5.7, then it means that in the past 3 months, your meals have not been that great. You'll clearly not also be exercising, or even if you're walking, you are not watching what you are eating, which led to a higher level of glycation in your blood glucose. Any levels of glycation above 5.7 is considered as pre-diabetes. Now, there is a small limitation to this as well. There could be a small number of patients whose glycated hemoglobin remains around 5.7, not more than that, but they could still have insulin resistance. What does one do if you have insulin resistance in that scenario? How do you find out? There is a chance that your HbA1c levels have been hovering around 5.7 or 5.8, but you could still have insulin resistance, and which might be missed with just checking the HbA1c levels. To ensure that you're not missing that, you need to be doing a test called fasting insulin and HOMA-IR. What is fasting insulin? Fasting insulin is measuring how much insulin your body produces on an empty stomach. Normal range often is 2 to 10, but even a greater than 8 can suggest early resistance. Now, high fasting insulin with normal blood sugar level is indicator of an early insulin resistance. What is fasting insulin levels? Fasting insulin is how much insulin your body is producing on an empty stomach when you're fasting. Now, if you've watched the other previous videos, you would know that insulin levels are directly proportionate to what is the blood glucose levels, like dependent on, say, if you've eaten something, then your insulin levels are going to increase to manage the blood glucose which is in your bloodstream. Imagine a scenario where you have been fasting for 8 to 10 hours and still your fasting insulin levels on a fasted stomach, in a fasted state, are high or are more than 8, which means that your body is in a state of constant emergency where it's trying to manage the blood glucose levels, which can mean insulin resistance in your body. So, a fasting insulin level of more than 8 can also be an indicator of insulin resistance, because your body feels that there needs to be more insulin being produced right now to manage your blood glucose levels, which often is the hallmark of insulin resistance. The last test is HOMA-IR. What is HOMA-IR? Ideal HOMA-IR levels are less than 1.5. If your HOMA-IR levels are more than 2.5, then that is a huge red flag and you need to be very careful of your overall diet and lifestyle, because you are then likely to be pre-diabetic or diabetic in the future if you're not managing your blood glucose levels okay. So what can you do then? Do you all need to go get your HOMA IR checked? Not really. If you have the means, if you have access to those tests, you could get all of the tests done, all the 5 that I listed. But otherwise, checking an HbA1c and fasting insulin should be good enough. HOMA IR is something that we check when we have early PCOS, early diagnosis of PCOS in young girls, especially because they are more likely to have insulin resistance, which needs to be critically managed. If you like this video, please share this with everyone and tell us in the comments what other videos you would like to see next.